Hello and grüß Gott. Today we're going to change the brake fluid on my 2012 BMW F650GS. Why are we doing that? Well, I'm getting ready to take it on a long trip and I noticed the rear brake reservoir is really opaque and that bothers me a lot. It should be rather translucent. And so I went out and bought myself some good old German Super DOT4 Pentosan brake fluid, brand new container. I have a waste container which I will mark as waste. I have my standard tri-bond thread locker which I like to use. It's not permanent, it's only a very minimal strength thread locker. I have a line here that I use for bleeding brakes. I use it for all my brakes. So I just simply made a little deal where I can sort of plug it in there, keep it clean, and because brake fluid has to be very clean. You'll need an 11mm wrench, like a flare nut wrench. You want one with the actual hex sides, 6 sides. You're going to need a handheld torque instrument that torques down to 7 Newton meters, because when you tighten up the bleeder valve, you're going to tighten it up to 7 Newton meters. It's very important to use a torque wrench because it's aluminum on the caliper assembly with a cast iron bleeder valve, so it'll strip it out real easy if you're not careful. Of course, you're going to need your set of Torx drivers. What I'm going to do is on the rear reservoir, because it's in a situation you can't really get to it, I'm going to use this to take the reservoir loose while I'm doing the work. You're going to need a GS911. You're going to need some tape and some bags, whatever you need to do to protect anything from brake fluid. Brake fluid loves to eat paint, so you have to be very, very careful not to drip it on anything. I also have some towels to have so I can keep everything protected. And you're going to need your manual so that you can record the maintenance that you did. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to, on the front and rear brakes, we're going to attach this hose, open up the bleed line. I'll show you how to do that. And then while one person pumps the brake pedal slowly, I'll open the line and then close it before they let the brake pedal go back up. It's really important you do it that way, otherwise you'll suck in air. And so, again, what you're going to do is you're going to, as they're putting slight pressure on the brake pedal, you're going to open up the bleeder valve just a little bit. They're going to push down on the pedal. When they're almost at the end of its travel, they're going to let you know. You're going to close it back off, and then they can let the pedal up, and it'll take fluid out of the reservoir. While you're doing that, you have to look very, very carefully at the reservoir to make sure it doesn't get down too close to the minimum level, because if you get below minimum, you can suck air into the system, and you don't really want to do that because it makes it too hard to bleed. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that for the front and rear, and then I'm going to hook up the GS911, and we're going to run the ABS brake system for about 30 seconds. It'll cycle the pump so that it puts new fluid in there. And then after that, I'm going to bleed it one more time. And so we'll have pretty much brand new fluid in the whole system. BMW has a little bit better way to do this. They have a special instrument they can attach and it gets complete new fluid in. But if you do this every few months, you're going to be fine. Believe me, if you do it like once a year. Brake fluid's hygroscopic, absorbs moisture, but it doesn't absorb it that fast. So if you bleed the brakes just once a year, you're in great shape. So we're going to get this set up and I'll be right back. Okay, here's my setup for the rear brake. I have my 11mm wrench onto the bleeder nipple, and I've already pre-loosened it so that it's just barely snug. And we won't be able to record it on camera because the camera guy is going to go around to the other side and push down on the brake pedal. So he'll push down on it, I'll open this up, let brake fluid bleed out, and we'll close it before the pedal goes all the way down. And then we'll make sure the reservoir on the other side doesn't get too low, and we'll keep adding fresh fluid to it till we've flushed it out really well. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll be right back. All right, I want to show you the reservoir. This is the rear brake reservoir right here, and use a T30 to take it loose. Now this was completely opaque, and what I did was I took this out, hold it upright, I slipped the whole thing under here, and then one of us held it and also actuated the brake lever, while on the other side I opened the bleeder valve. We actually did 4 reservoir discharges to get it to the point where it's clear again. it absolutely definitely had some kind of contaminant in it. So we're going to move to the front brakes now, and I'll show you the setup of those. Here's how we're going to bleed this. The front brake on this one, the bleeder nipple is right here. The hose going into my waste receptacle. As you can see, the stuff that came out of the other one was pretty dark. So we're going to bleed this, making sure we don't empty the reservoir on the brake handle or on the handlebar. And then we're going to add some brake fluid to it. And at that point, we're going to cycle the system, the ABS system, using the GS911. So that's the setup. It's a two-man operation. One person has to actuate this while the other person pulls the brake handle. And again, you're going to open it up while the person's pulling the brake handle, and you want to close it before they release the brake handle so you don't suck air back into the system. Now, if you have enough fluid in your reservoir, and if your reservoir is clean, your waste receptacle, you can actually put the hose down in there so it won't suck air in. I normally do that, but there was a tiny bit of water left in this container, so I decided I didn't want to go that method. So we should be fine the way it is. So, also up here, I did a lot of work to try to protect this so that I'm not going to drip any fluid or ruin any paint. So, again, we just want to make sure we take care of everything. I'm going to add some fluid to this reservoir, and then again, we're going to actuate the 911 system to make the ABS system run for 30 seconds. So we'll get that all set up and we'll be right back. One thing I wanted to mention was to get this cap off, it doesn't just simply screw off. You have to push in these little tangs on both sides. There's one on each side, and it's easier if you have two people to do it. I'm sure there's some BMW tool. So if one person pushes in like that, the other person can unscrew it while you're holding the body here, and then it'll come off, and then this little clip assembly will come out with a rubber boot, and then you can put fluid in. You have to take the rubber boot out to put the fluid in. So right now I've refilled this up, looks good. Now we're going to hook up the GS911 and go ahead and cycle our ABS system. So we'll do that next. Okay, the GS911's hooked up to my machine. I'm going to turn the ignition on here in a minute. And when we do that, we're going to tell it not to turn the lights on in front because we don't want to waste battery power. Then we'll go into the correct menu to cycle the ABS brake system. So we'll do that here in a second. We'll be right back. Okay, at this point, we have run the ABS system for both the front and rear brakes. What it does is it allows you to actuate one brake at a time. So you do your front one, you pull it for 2 seconds all the way down, and you hear the motor running. You release it, you do it again, and you do that 3 times, and then the motor shuts back off, and then you move to the rear brake and do that one. And now we're going to get ready to disconnect the 911, and we're going to bleed the brakes one more time, and we should be finished. And I'll take it out for a test drive and see if it works. And that should be all there is to it. Thanks for watching.